Lisa Honold here, Director for the Center for Online Safety. The Journal of American Medical Association Pediatrics released a study this month on kids that they were following in two periods. One is 2016, one is 2020. The big news is how much screen time increased from 2016 to 2020. This was a study with 5,400 kids, roughly equal boys and girls, racially diverse. They were 9 and 10 years old to start in 2016, and in 2020, they were 12 and 13-year-olds. What they saw was that screen time increased from under 4 hours a day. This is entertainment screen time separate from school and other things, under 4 hours to almost 8 hours. It was almost a full-time job in 2020. We've got to remember what was happening in 2020. This was May 2020. So pandemic in the US was well underway. Many states were shut down. Lots of online schooling was happening, and that was not counted in the screen time here. There was also a lot of stress around what was going to happen. Socially, the kids were more isolated. Lots of kids were home doing online school. Not a lot of sports or outlets that were open at that point. So one of the main findings is that screen time went from 3.8 hours to 7.7 hours, almost a full-time job, right? The thing I want to stress is that the kids were older. So of course, we're going to get some increased screen time as kids have more access to independence. They are streaming movies, they are gaming, they're on social media, even though they're too young to be on social media, a lot of them, they're still on social media. So some of this is expected that screen time will increase. The numbers are astronomical, right? Going from 4 hours a day is a lot of screen time. Now we're at almost 8 as young teenagers. The thing that is scary to me is the link between higher screen time usage and a decrease in mental health, an increase in stress levels. That is scary, to have a correlation between higher screen time use equals higher stress equals decreased mental health. Part of that is pandemic. We know 2020. Part of that, however, is related to the activities that they're doing on for screen time. In 2020, they were not supervised with families, the parents that still had to work outside of the home. Everyone's stress level was through the roof at that point. And there was a fair amount of doom scrolling where you're scrolling, you're Googling things, you're scrolling social media, you keep seeing negative posts and it stresses you out inside, and you keep scrolling because you need to know. You feel compelled to know what's going on in the world and with yourself and your friends. So doom scrolling was definitely a thing in 2020. The thing that when your life is filled up with screen time, as a teen and tween, you're not leaving room for boredom. You're not leaving room for creativity. You're not leaving room for friends and family. Relationships suffer with excessive screen use. And that's part of the study as well, was the kids that had less screen time were coping better with the realities of 2020, and they had better relationships with friends and family. What can you do about this, parents? It's now a year and a half past when this study happened. You can start to limit screen time. The pandemic was a mess. Screen time was out of control. Understandably, we were in a once in a lifetime emergency. There weren't a lot of other things to do. Now we're pulling out of the emergency level. School's back in session, sports are back. Other activities and outlets are returning to in person. Now is the time to pull back on excessive screen time. The easiest thing you can do right now is to collect devices at the end of the night. When it's bedtime, all the devices go to your bedroom. You can also use an outside app like Bark, which is a screen time limiter. So you can program Bark to say bedtime for all my kids' devices is 9 at night. After 9, they don't work. So that's one thing. The other thing you can do is collect the devices in addition to that. Just make sure that kids aren't finding a way around the software you're using. So collect devices at night, make sure they're getting sleep. We know that mental health suffers with lack of sleep. So make sure your kids are getting enough sleep. As teenagers, they need so much sleep, and they're tempted not to get it when they've got devices in the room. You can also dedicate an hour or two in the evenings for screen-free time for the whole family. That means no TV or TV as a family. That means no phones. It's a time for talking. It's a time for dinner, for prep, for cleanup. It's a time to connect as a family. So those are two easy ways to start to limit screen time. Is just give time to be offline. If you find these tips helpful, come on over to centerforonlinesafety.com/blog. We've got lots of resources for you, current events, what's going on right now, as well as settings that are changing on different social media accounts so you can set up accounts to be the healthiest they can be, as well as parenting tools. We all need parenting tools. We've got them at centerforonlinesafety.com/blog.